Have you heard about the epidemic of loneliness?
I don't know.
I guess so, maybe occasionally.
I haven't, but I can imagine that it's there.
The Surgeon General of the United States put out this advisory on loneliness and social isolation, basically saying that it's really bad for your health. Some things that stuck out to me were that it can lead to premature death as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It can lead to increased risk of anxiety, depression, and dementia. It can make you perform less well in school and at work. And apparently it's worse for you than being obese. So all of those things got me very interested in the topic, and I wanted to see what other people would think. So let's see.
It's probably not good to be lonely, like too lonely. You gotta make friends and go out, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I guess there'd be reason that there'd be more loneliness now with social media, technology. Just it's easier to entertain yourself by yourself. Yeah, I think that would be the main difference in maybe why there's more loneliness now. So you just got to be aware to get outside.
One thing that might give me an interesting perspective on this is over the summers I work in an outdoor school up at Mount Shasta.
Okay.
And one of the things that we get a lot is these kids who are very city kids, especially from San Francisco mainly. And the thing I've noticed is that it's very easy to isolate oneself today with all the access to technology, all the access to video games. And I feel like the problem that arises from having such instant gratification is that you no longer feel the need to make these strong connections with other people all the time. You're like, oh, I'm just going to go home and play video games. I'm going to go home and scroll Instagram.
Yeah.
And I've fallen into this too, but I try and get out of it all the time. It's I feel it's very important to build those connections.
Have you experienced loneliness in your life?
Never. I don't think so.
Yeah, definitely.
How did you get out of it?
Wow. Finding a place where things are new and you want to pursue, you want to get up and go outside, and living with people who you actually enjoy being around and enjoy talking to and waking up to. Definitely surrounding yourself with things that you feel like you want to get up and do. And I feel like if you're putting yourself out there in positions where you feel good in what you're doing, you're gonna, be in a better mood, and you might attract more people and find people that you like through those hobbies or whatever it is. So.
Never. Anyone you know?
Yeah, maybe like a friend.
Yeah. Did you help them get out of it at all?
Yeah, most of the time that sometimes you can do it, but sometimes you can't, not in the position that I can. If I have a chance, then I do it.
What's the situation where you can't pull someone out of loneliness?
Because sometimes I also have the things that I have to do, and also when it happens, my friends sometimes he get lonely, he has depressions, and most of the time I try to, if I can, in my capacity, I try my best. But when sometimes I caught up with something, sometimes it happens, then it's a time that I can't do that. Then
Yeah.
yeah.
You're focused on yourself. That makes sense.
College. Oh, okay. Beginning of college, probably.
Okay. How did you get out of it?
Going outside and complimenting people, because if you say something nice to people, then you can make friends.
Well, yeah, I've been lonely plenty of times. I think it's probably more common if you're introverted, not because it's bad to be introverted, but just because that's it's kind of a common situation to find yourself in as an introvert, I would say.
As an introvert, does it bother you being lonely? Do you try to not be? I don't know.
Well, I think it's really good to have at least one way to see people, at least on at least once a week or something that. That's what I always try to do. So I think that helps a ton. I try to be around friends. Ideally. Yeah.
I wouldn't describe myself as lonely, but I definitely been at a point where I wasn't getting out enough, and yeah, I can tell the difference.
I mean, I think it comes and goes. It's if you have a lot going on in your life, you just don't want to be at a point where you're not actively doing anything. Probably, if you're out and playing sports or
working or doing like stuff that you enjoy, life's good.
Yeah.
Personally, and this is not exactly a healthy way of doing it, is I exercise a lot. So I grew up doing sports, and then when COVID hit, I kind of hit this wall of being A, very lonely, and B, having terrible insomnia because I just wasn't doing sports anymore. I was like, where is this insomnia coming from? So I started going on runs, and then when school sports started up again, I started doing those again. And I feel like if for people experiencing loneliness, and it's very hard. Like, I know that if you have become lonely, you probably have isolated yourself for a long time. It's very awkward to get out there and it's very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable place to be. But I feel like just doing some form of group activity, whether it's like going on a bar crawl even, or something to put you in a group setting, because that is going to be the best way to meet people. Because
Certainly, yes, I haven't felt lonely. I don't know, I kind of just like, it's weird explaining the process of like making friends, but like I kind of just did that, and I don't exactly know the step-by-step process to do that, but I kind of went into a different environment than I was in, and it worked out better there. So just kind of like try out new places with
Sure.
maybe different people.
Different people, try something new.
Yeah, if you can't like, I guess, connect with the people you're already surrounded by.
I guess just like being around the right people, because like even if you're around the wrong people, you could still feel lonely.
That is such an important point. You could be with a group of people, but if they're not right for you, then you're not going to feel a sense of belonging. More people talk about this topic, so let's keep watching.
I would say like coming to college, like when I was coming to college, I was thinking like, oh shit, I'm gonna be like around a bunch of people like my age and like it's gonna be fun and shit. But the homesick is real. Like it's so real, and yeah, I'm actually pretty lonely.
Right now,
Yeah.
even being, like you were with a friend just now.
Yeah.
Even-
That's my roommate.
Okay,
We're
cool.
roommates, yeah.
Sick. Like even being with friends, you still kind of feel homesick, like lonely. It doesn't really help that much.
Yeah, I feel like it. Like what I realized is it doesn't really matter the amount of people you're around if you're like not really close to people, or like when like for me, I was really close with my family, and like the fact that I was away, the fact that I am away from my family now, it's like really, I don't know, just kind of
Sad.
yeah.
Yeah. So kind of the only thing that would help is like seeing them.
Yeah, or like, I don't know. It's also kind of hard to make friends. Or like personally for me, it was like kind of hard to make friends in college.
Definitely.
Or like close friends at least. Like,
What have you done like to try and make friends? Did you try and like join a club or I don't know, things like that?
I've like joined clubs. I've like hit people up in my classes and like, oh, like we should get coffee or blah, blah, blah. It honestly doesn't, or like for me, like it hasn't really gone anything outside of like hang out once or twice. There's always like some kind of lingering awkwardness, and I don't know, just kind of feels weird.
Well, I'm sorry. And I hope things change.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Probably when I first moved to my college. At the time, I had just moved. My roommate that was supposed to come wasn't coming for a month, and the friends I did have had just dropped me off, and it was like an empty apartment, and I just had a suitcase, and that was it. And I was there for like a few days, like by myself, just no moped, no nothing, like no car. Yeah, so I couldn't really do anything.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I got a job, and like the friends I did have, I went out as much as I could, and yeah, I waited for a roommate to get back. Got transportation so I could actually go places.
I don't really feel lonely. I always try to keep it happy.
Yeah, what do you do to stay happy?
Focus on the positive. Work, go to school.
Sure.
Just how it is.
Stay busy.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't let yourself just be alone, think too much.
Not really. That's time to go to bed or whatever.
That's great. That's the second person who said that they just don't feel lonely, which is really shocking to me personally because I'm someone who feels all their feelings really. But the dude said that he just works, goes to school. I'm assuming that was his girlfriend. So he really just stays busy, like he said, and I guess that's a way to not feel lonely. Kind of interesting. But anyways, my favorite interview, the dude with the backwards hat, it's coming up, so let's keep watching.
Probably when I lost my grandma. Well, I mean, I just kind of tried moving past things, you know. I mean, I can't say things ever like really got better from that point. They more just changed. I guess it's just kind of like the support systems you have in place, right?
Did you have people in place at that time, like to talk to you about it?
I mean, yeah, like family, but a lot of it was just kind of figuring out for myself.
It'd be like my first year of high school. I didn't really have any friends. Kind of just was by myself the entire time. I was kind of like the kid with their headphones on, looking down.
Did you attempt to connect with people and it didn't work, or were you just, didn't really make an effort?
I was really awkward. I didn't really know how to talk to people, and I was like also like really overweight. So I always felt like people were judging me, and I eventually made like online friends, and that helped me kind of make in real life connections. But it took a while. I kind of realized like I wasn't gonna have a good high school experience unless I actually made an effort to talk to people, and it turned out to be true.
Specifically, like, what did you do? Did you join a team? Did you join a club? How'd you start meeting people?
We had like a lot of group projects in high school, and I kind of seeked out people that had a similar interest. We had like a coding class, and I went that sophomore year because we could actually choose classes, and I met people that I shared an interest with, games and stuff. So yeah.
Dude, I was feeling kind of lonely last night, homie.
Really?
Yeah, dude, I was like in my apartment, and I was like, man, like, why don't I have a girlfriend yet, things that everybody thinks about.
Yeah.
And then I mean, how I dealt with it personally, I'm a Christian.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, God, like, I'm not doing so good right now, like, please help me. And I felt the presence of God, and God was just telling me like, hey, like, I love you, like you don't need a girlfriend to satisfy you, like I love you, I'm here for you, and it helped so much. So
I think recently I've become more comfortable with loneliness. I don't really necessarily view it as a bad thing anymore.
Okay.
Because, I don't know, recently I feel like it gives me time to reflect on my own terms, whether or not that be like, if I want to go reach out with other people, then I'll do it, but if I don't want it, I won't do it. So I feel like, I don't know, recently I've been like more lonely. Some people say I guess I'm more lonely, but I feel like it's not necessarily a terrible thing.
So maybe you're socially isolated, like not around people, but you don't actually feel lonely doing that.
Yeah, definitely more isolation, or like solitude, I guess you can say.
Solitude. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't think so. I would say yeah, maybe like in the last year, I guess there was times where I felt lonely just because I wasn't around people that I really wanted to be around, or like I guess the people that I did want to be around didn't want to be around me. So I guess in those times I felt a little bit more lonely just because I was in a position where I was craving something that wasn't necessarily there for me. So I guess in that sense I was lonely.
Yeah.
But I feel like that kind of led into why I'm more comfortable with solitude now.
Yeah, like you could feel less alone by yourself than with other people. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I feel like being very lonely can take like a negative toll on you. And like I know during COVID I didn't have like a lot of friends, and I felt very lonely, and I felt the effect that it was like taking on me, and how it just changes. Like I felt like I was sleeping a lot more and not taking care of myself as much. So well, kind of going to college, like trying to put myself out there more, and like pushing myself to join different clubs and stuff that I'm interested in, so I meet people with like interests and stuff.
Have you ever felt lonely even though you're with other people? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
So then what's the difference? Like just being like hanging around other people is not enough to have that sense of like belonging. Like what more do you need? You know what I mean?
I think it's being able to be like open with people, and being able to like kind of be free to be yourself, because I feel like there's a difference between being with friends and feeling like you can be yourself, you can be like goofy or whatever, and like being with acquaintances where you feel like, oh, I need to be a certain person around these people to make sure that they like me.
I think the biggest takeaway from the video is that loneliness definitely exists, like the Surgeon General said, People either are lonely currently or they felt it in the past. And there's kind of universal ways for being less lonely kind of obvious, but join a community, you know? And it's not that simple, as we've seen. You can't just join a group and bam, not lonely anymore. It doesn't work like that, but it is true that we need others to feel complete. And joining some kind of group is the first step. A time that I was maybe the most lonely I've been, pretty, up there for me. It was my first year of college. Like a lot of people in this video, they said college. I joined a fraternity, and I just, even though I was, rushing and pledging with 30 other guys, I just didn't feel connected to them really. Looking back, I now know it was because of the difference in goals. A lot of them were engineers or aspiring engineers, and they knew where they wanted to work. They knew what they wanted to do in the future, where I had no idea. So it was very difficult for me to connect with them. But that's the thing. I was around 30 people similar to me, but I felt so lonely. And what I ended up doing to feel less lonely, which is exactly that's why the backwards hat interview guy was my favorite, because similar to him, I retracted, into myself kind of, and I got a job. I started going to the gym and started reading books more. I gave myself a little more time to think about my future, myself. So if you're feeling lonely, this is difficult, but maybe try and take a step back and look at your situation objectively, if that's possible, and you might figure out what's kind of making you feel a little bit empty or lonely, and you might be able to find a way to fix that situation you're in. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.